Sloops of War, the late 18th and early 19th century. The sloops of war were some of the most versatile and agile vessels to sail the seas during the turbulent late 18th and early 19th centuries. Their role, though often overshadowed by the more glamorous frigates and ships of the line, was crucial in maintaining the global empires of Britain, France, Spain, and the nascent United States. This narrative is sponsored by Polly Speaks For You. The creator of Polly Speaks For You has always been passionate about empowering individuals, especially those with disabilities or learning challenges, through text-to-speech and voice recognition technology. Polly Speaks For You isn't just a tool. It's a bridge for people to communicate and interact with the world in a meaningful way. By blending historical storytelling with cutting-edge tech, the creator showcases how powerful a voice can be, whether telling your own story or preserving history. So hit that like, share, and subscribe button and help this channel grow. Now back to the Age of Sail. Anecdotes from the Age of Sail. Life aboard these sloops, with their cramped quarters and constant exposure to the elements, was harsh, but the men who served on them often left behind colorful stories of bravery, survival, and even moments of levity. Captain William Conway's diary entry, June 5, 1804. HMS Surprise, off the coast of Brittany. This day, we sighted a French privateer lurking near the coastline. With only a crew of 85 and her armament no more than 10 six-pounders, she was no match for us, yet I could not help but admire the pluck of their captain. We gave chase as they tried to evade us among the rocky shoals of the coastline. It was a spirited pursuit, but after an hour, we cornered them in a small bay where they struck their colors. We took them as a prize and found among their crew several Englishmen pressed into service. They were thin, ragged, and full of stories of hardship, but were overjoyed to be freed. Tonight, the men celebrate the victory. I suspect much rum will be spilled before the night is out. Such diary entries highlight the frequent encounters between rival ships and privateers during these wars. Sloops were often tasked with patrolling treacherous waters, where they would intercept enemy vessels and protect merchant convoys from marauding privateers. Anecdote: the battle between USS Wasp and HMS Frolic. In one of the most famous engagements of the War of 1812, the American sloop of war USS Wasp encountered HMS Frolic in the Atlantic Ocean on October 18, 1812. Though both vessels were sloops, the fight that followed was nothing short of ferocious. According to accounts from Midshipman James Miller aboard the Wasp, the battle began in a storm. The rough seas made aiming the cannons difficult, and the men had to brace themselves against the violent rocking of the ship. We could scarcely keep our feet, much less aim true, wrote Miller later. But Captain Jones, resolute as ever, ordered us to fire, and we obeyed. After the fourth broadside, a great cheer arose from the crew as we saw her mainmast crack and fall into the sea, dragging the rigging with it. HMS Frolic was crippled, yet her men continued to fire on us with remarkable tenacity. It was only when we came alongside and boarded that the fighting ended. I remember the sight of their decks, the bodies of the fallen lying in heaps as if they'd been swept by a great wave. War, it seems, has no mercy. The battle ended in victory for the USS Wasp, but the ship itself was later captured by a British frigate. Nevertheless, the bravery shown during this engagement became a source of inspiration for American sailors and a demonstration of the determination of the young U.S. Navy. Reminiscences: Lieutenant Charles Ridley of HMS Pickle. Lieutenant Ridley served aboard HMS Pickle, a sloop of war that was present at the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805. HMS Pickle was not a fighting ship, but was given the task of carrying the news of Admiral Nelson's victory back to England. I shall never forget the moment we arrived in Falmouth, Ridley wrote many years later. The townspeople gathered on the dock, their faces filled with anxious expectation. They must have known we brought tidings from the fleet. When Captain Lapinotier stepped ashore and cried, "Victory!" they erupted into cheers that seemed to shake the very ground. But it was a victory tempered with sorrow, for we also brought word of Nelson's death. It was as though the air itself changed when the news spread. Some wept openly, for he was the heart of the Navy, the very soul of England. Ridley's recollections capture the unique position HMS Pickle held in British naval history. Though a small vessel, her role in delivering such monumental news made her a legend in the Royal Navy. Captain Lapinotier's famous ride from Falmouth to London, an overland journey of nearly 300 miles, became known as the Trafalgar Dispatch. The role of sloops in blockades and raids. In addition to their role in direct combat, sloops were often used in blockade operations. One such example was HMS Halcyon, a British sloop stationed off the coast of Spain during the Peninsular War. Under the command of Captain Thomas Mason, she was tasked with intercepting supplies bound for the French army. Aboard the ship, there was constant vigilance. One sailor's journal from 1809 described the monotony and danger of blockade duty. "We are to remain anchored in the Bay of Biscay, watching the shore day after day. It is the most tedious duty a man can imagine. Yet we know that if a single French ship breaks through our line, it could mean disaster for our troops on the Iberian Peninsula. Every morning, we hoist our signal flags, and every evening, we scan the horizon for any sign of sails. The men grumble, but they know their work is vital. 2 weeks ago, we captured a French merchant ship filled with powder and shot. It was a small prize, but it lifted the spirits of the crew considerably." Sloops of war were also used in amphibious raids. Their shallow draft allowed them to navigate close to shore, and their crews were trained for quick landings. One of the most famous raids occurred in 1797 when HMS Seagull, a sloop of the Royal Navy, conducted a daring raid on the French coast. Leading the charge was Lieutenant Edward Collier, whose daring actions were later recorded in an admiring account. "We were ordered to storm the battery at dawn. The men were ready to leap from the boats as soon as we reached the shore. Collier himself led the way, his sword gleaming in the morning light. With a shout, we rushed the French position. The fighting was fierce, but within an hour, we had taken the battery and destroyed the guns. I still remember the sight of the French tricolor fluttering as it was torn down and replaced by the Union Jack." In closing, the sloop of war may not have been the largest or most powerful ship of the line, but its speed, versatility, and tenacity allowed it to make a significant impact during the wars of the late 18th and early 19th centuries. Whether intercepting enemy vessels, engaging in fierce naval combat, or delivering vital messages, these ships and their crews left an indelible mark on the history of naval warfare. The stories of life aboard these small but mighty ships, whether through official logs, personal diaries, or reminiscences, offer a window into the hardships, adventures, and camaraderie that defined this era of seafaring. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. To learn more about South Africa's leading accessibility software, visit www.polispeaks4u.co.za and support this meaningful dyslexic initiative. Thank you for watching.